Okay, this is the second part of the first video I just did on the non-existence and non-reality of God and how that is acceptable for any theist to accept. And I believe it's necessary for all of y'all to do that. But again, that's another debate in and of itself. But the second part is, how do we know that God is? Because it's my stipulation that God is. He doesn't have to exist. He doesn't have to be real in the actual meaning of those words. Because again, I tell you all, go look at the words you're using. Evidence and reality and existing, look at the words, what they mean, and realize that it cannot pertain to God at all. And why? Because Genesis 1. If you read Genesis 1, verse 1, it shows you that God is outside everything. He created everything. So it cannot be a thing for you to have evidence of, right? So again, it's concepts. Conceptually, it is valid. And if it is or is not, that's the question, right? Is it or isn't it? So the only thing now we can do is answer the question, how do we know? How can we know, right? Now, Jenny has always done great things, and she has wonderful love and compassion for all the children and people that come, to her, and come and on the path of life and happen to cross her path and all of that. And so, I can know that if you would come and cross your path with Jenny, that you would enjoy that experience a lot. Now, what you're thinking of is, who is Jenny? Who is Jenny? You don't know Jenny. And why don't you know Jenny? Because you have no relationship with Jenny. You know who has a relationship with Jenny? I do. I know Jenny. See, but for all of you atheists out there, Jenny was a fictitious thing that I made up. A fictitious person that I imagine or I claim that exists. And then I'm telling you the vicissitudes of her grace, for those who come on the path and their pathways cross. But actually, she does exist. She's a thing. She's a human being that does exist. And I know that because I have, unlike you, I have a relationship with her. And other people have, whatever, children, family members, church goers, of the church. They know her. People from long ago, people from now, and people in the future. And now you're hearing about her only. So simply, what I've just showed you was a testimony of a relational experience that I have. It was totally realistic. It's like, wow. I mean, yeah, that must be some special person. That was somebody really that's really, in your world, in your part of the world, real, true and real and existing. You understand? But mostly, it's the relationship, because what I told you about is not scientifically provable. That she's a nice person, and everyone who comes to see her and leaves with a great opinion of her. That's not science. The other things about her that are physical, that are part of the natural things that is provable, right? Because she is a member, as I am, of the natural things that are in this, are in reality, right? So those parts are provable, but the other parts are things that can only be known through relationship. So when someone asks, well, how do you know that God is? Well, the I cannot deny it. Let me tell you something. Is there anything that you can possibly tell me that could take me away from what I myself have experienced as a personal, not a religious, experience, a personal experience with God? How do you think, what can you possibly say that would rock my boat? It's impossible. You cannot possibly, there's nothing that you can say that can rock my boat, because I have a relationship, and you know what happens in a relationship, that's where your proof is. How do you know who your best friend, how can you say that so and so is your best friend? How can you say that? Right? You have a best friend, Mr. or Mrs. Atheist? How do you know that? Right? Because there are things that you have tested. You two have gone through thick and thin together. Real things, real value, real support, right? Real, what do you call that? Companionship. That's a big word. Companionship means that you're sharing bread together, right? You're a co-breader. You eat bread together. You are together, man. So listen, this is not an issue in God. It's not an issue of walking alone. I'm not by myself. There have been many times that I knew that I wasn't alone. And get this, other people also knew it. So it wasn't just me imagining. Other people said, oh, when so and so happened, I can tell you the stories, I won't do them now, but when so and so happened and you were coming, I saw this next to you, behind you. I can tell you what other people, not religious people, just people who were doing, basically enemies of mine, people doing something to me or throwing something at me, and they saw I wasn't alone. You look at the Bible and you see Daniel wasn't alone in the den, and he wasn't alone in the three youth were not alone in the fiery furnace. Okay, so again, I'm sorry, and I'm not being facetious. That word also gives me some I got a fat tongue, but I don't want to be rub things in your face, because I know a lot of atheists started out in church, and again, I don't know what church you started. They came from different churches, different belief systems, stuff like that. I just know that most churches don't teach right. Okay, they don't teach right, and most Christians don't learn right either. They don't learn right. And what does that mean? It means that they're not growing and do not develop a personal relationship with God. That's what that means. Okay? And because you have not developed the personal relationship with God and gone through life, different things happening, where that relationship is tested, you know, and there's some relational walking and growing and dealing with issues and struggles, you don't have that. And if you don't have that, then, you know, you have been believing a religion. And I agree with you. There's nothing here. Because then you're stuck with the fact that there's no evidence and there's no relationship. And all you have been doing is believing in teachings of men and believing in teachings of churches and traditions of men. That's all you have. So I feel for you. I understand that. I understand that fully. And I'm sorry that you had that. But again, nothing was stopping you from using faith. Not the faith they taught you in church. The faith that the Bible, see, that's the problem. The church can say whatever they can say, but the Bible, God put in the Bible what you needed to do. So that's on you. That's not on the church. That's not on anything else. That's on you. And the Bible tells you what faith is. And the sad fact is that most people, instead of following what the Bible says, they follow what the churches say. See? They follow what the priest or the pastor said. Even though the Bible is saying exactly and plainly, faith is this and that, right? Evidence? If you want evidence, you need to have faith. So, you're an atheist, you want evidence, Hebrews 11:1. Because that is where the foundation of any evidence that any Christian could possibly have. Because we cannot have the one in reality. The one the one that it shows existence, that we cannot have. But relationship, that we all can have. And that is the one that is undeniable. And and just like me, there's nothing. Because of that relationship, I understand the things that I do about science and math. Not just Bible. It's not just religious concepts. I understand science and math because and through my relationship with God. See, that is the difference. Denying God now at this point is to deny my own self and my own life for the past 50 some odd years. And that cannot be done. There's nothing you guys, again, how am I going to, what credibility and authority you guys have against 50 years of experience? You'd have none. None. And again, and I hear it in what you're saying. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I hear about your your lack of relationship with God. I can hear it and see it. You guys say, I was in church and there was never nothing there and blah, blah, blah. So you're saying, you're admitting that you did not have a relationship with God. So of course, between the non-existent evidence that you seek and I have to get the family right now, and the way that you are approaching this whole issue without having a relationship with God, then you're truly devoid of anything that could be considered God. Okay. Thank you, and we'll be back.